with the three Skittle shitters squarely in the rear view mirror, that being Riley and the two Williams. Now the question is, Brent Venables, is he too green for a first-time job at a traditional power? Or is he a blessing from the football gods for the Sooner Nation? Let's go. Again today, boys and girls in sporty land. I'm JPC. I am the OCF. That is the outlaw of college football. And this is my favorite part of the show. Without a shadow of a doubt, this is the home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Now, getting right to it here, Brent Venables. Is he too green for this job? A lot of people, a lot of pundits out there, a lot of critics are saying that taking over a high-profile job such as Oklahoma in your first job might be a little too much. But I have seen instances, Kirby Smart comes to mind, where sometimes you're just made for this job. You're a fit for this job. And Brent Venables had numerous opportunities to go elsewhere when he was the coordinator at Clemson. Some of them were mid-card jobs, but there was jobs like Tennessee where he was mentioned as a leading candidate that, from what I understand, he turned that job down. Now, that may be true or not true. But Oklahoma comes calling, and Brent Venables is on the plane about as fast as you can get on a plane to Norman, Oklahoma, or wherever the planes land, and then take you to Norman, Oklahoma. He called this his dream job. And you can tell the man's genuine and saying what he's saying because Lincoln Riley, I just never got that vibe from. I'm not going to dwell on Lincoln Riley too much because, like many people have said, we need to move on from Lincoln. As long as he keeps his little mealy mouth shut, we won't talk about Lincoln anymore. But Lincoln Riley never gave me that vibe of this being his dream job. Brent Venables says it, and you can almost, I'd say at least 90 to 95% believe it. And I'm sure there's always opportunities out there that may present themselves to Brent Venables at a later date that may change his mind. Maybe an NFL job. But I doubt it. You see, Brent Venables is cut from some tough cloth. Not only did he spend about 8 or 9 years, I'm not really sure about the length of time, but that's about how long he was here under Bob Stoops at Oklahoma, and it was like, to him, a second home. But he's cut from tough cloth. Not many people remember or realize how bad it was at Kansas State when Brent Venables went to Kansas State. He went there under a guy by the name of Bill Snyder, a man that was probably could be considered one of the greatest of all time just by the mere fact of what he took over and how he was able to change it. See, Kansas State, and a lot of people don't realize this, they used to be the worst college football program of all time, percentage-wise. I ain't just talking about 1A. They were the worst 1AA team, which is what it was called back then. They were the worst overall compared to Division III schools. NAIA schools, they had the worst winning percentage of all time. And Bill Snyder came in there. He not only won a few games, the man took them to bowl games, and if I'm not mistaken, he took them, I think, to the Big 12 championship game a few times. Maybe even won a Big 12 title. I had to go back and research Bill Snyder on this, but he took them to great heights. I remember in the late 90s, in 1998, they were in the conversation to be playing in the, I think it was the first BCS title game. So Brent Venables knows how to win in dire situations, in situations that are not conducive to winning, and how to turn it around. Fast forward to his years under Bob Stoops. Same thing, him and Bob Stoops coming to that program where they were coming off some pretty bad years for Oklahoma. Some shady stuff went on, just like it did at other programs like Alabama and USC during that time. And they came in, and while Bob's first season wasn't great, they won the national championship in their second year. And I think this guy can succeed. But what I'm going to have to ask of the Oklahoma Sooners and their fans is you're going to have to be patient with this guy because it is his first job and he's going to make some mistakes. But I don't like to compare him to people like, I don't know, Larry Coker, people that got their first job at a big name school. I like to compare him more to Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney, because Dabo Swinney and Kirby Smart didn't win national championships in their first few years. Clemson and Georgia have laid the blueprint for what programs really need to try to do when they hire a new coach. Now, granted, you can't have a coach come in and go 1-10 or 3-9 or whatever. Yeah, I know they got to at least show a little modicum of being able to win a few games in their first season. But he reminds me a lot, not personality-wise, but as far as their travels and how they came about and how they earned their way, reminds me a lot of Kirby Smart. A lot of people like to make fun and poke at Kirby Smart because he's a little quirky. But Kirby Smart was underneath a legendary coach for about 8 or 9 seasons, a legendary coach named Nick Saban who has won national championships. Brent Venables, same thing. He was under Bob Stoops, a legendary coach in Oklahoma circles. Bob Stoops won a national championship. Then Brent Venables went to Clemson, and he's under probably another soon-to-be legendary coach in Dabo Swinney. Dabo Swinney won national championships. Great defense. Without that defense last year, Clemson would have probably lost about 5 or 6 games. And that's not me exaggerating or trash talking. That's a fact. So he's cut from a cloth and a mold that really fits Oklahoma. And I think all we're going to have to do is just have patience. Now, Bob Stoops, I think, now I'm not sure about the exact record, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, Bob Stoops went 7-5 his first year. Nick Saban, same thing, 7-6. Dabo Swinney, I'm really not certain on his record. I think he may have went like 8-4 or 9-4 or something like that. And Kirby Smart, same thing. Kirby Smart went like 8-4, 9-4 his first season. And that's where I think that he will land. I don't think he'll struggle as badly as Stoops and Saban did in the fact that they had to change an entire culture. But I think that he will probably lose a few games. If he loses 3 or 4 games next year, I just hope that that contingent of the Sooner fan base doesn't come out and try to run the man off. Because, yeah, I know people say that fans don't control nothing or they don't control things, but really in today's social media, they do. If you get on someone hard enough on social media, you can make it really hell in recruiting some of these kids because they're paying attention to social media. So be patient. And that's not just Oklahoma fans. Alabama fans, Ohio State fans, Notre Dame fans, all of them have the same issues. You have that contingent of the fan base that's very unrealistic. They expect a coach to come in first season winning at least 10, 11 games. Sometimes that happens, but most of the time it don't. Most of the time a great coach has to get rid of those slackers, those cancers in the program that don't want to do things the right way or buy into whatever process that a great coach is trying to put in place, like a Nick Saban, like a Dabo Swinney, like a Bob Stoops, even further back, Bear Bryant, Barry Switzer, all of them. All of them have a process by which they go. And if you don't buy in and you allow those players to fester and those boosters to fester, it's going to hurt your program. So, in closing, all I'm asking out of the Oklahoma Nation is to give this man at least a good 3 or 4 years before you start passing judgment. Because I think that, in my opinion, with the kind of cloth that he's cut from and the experiences that he's had and the people he's been under, just his resume, to me, it's got that Kirby Smart feel, Dabo Swinney type feel. I would say within 5 or 6 years, Oklahoma will have won a national championship if we're patient. And that's just the key, man, is the patience. So if you're able to let that man get his claws embedded into the Oklahoma program and get things set up the way he wants and give him real support, I think that Oklahoma will finally be back at the national championship table, be back in the playoffs and not be a joke or an afterthought. Like they were when they played Alabama, and they were a joke after the first quarter. Yeah, they come back and made it close, but we all know that was Saban letting off the gas. So, if you want Oklahoma back at the national championship table, give this man the patience and the support he needs. And that's all I got to say about that. And with that, I'm going to get off of here. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams.